All right, man. Torture Talk. Like, share, subscribe to the page. Hit the thumbs up button if you like the content. So today, I'm going to be watching a video from Making Media Matter. You know what I'm saying? This is a female who I'm trying to get a little more exposure for. You know what I'm saying? You know what it is. So yeah, man. Let's get into it. Before I get into that, I gotta get my spill. This is the 6 o'clock show. This is Torture Talk. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. If you are not subscribed, let me earn your subscription today. I don't sell no merch, but I do have content that's absolutely free. But if you want to leave a donation, you can. Links is on the screen. PayPal, Cash App is in the description. All the beautiful single ladies, put one in the chat. All the fellas, y'all know where to find the ones at. Just don't harass them. They call me the hidden gem. I went from 1,300 subscribers to almost 9,000. Over 9,000. So, yeah, man. So, yeah, let's get to it, man. I ain't going to hold you guys too much longer. Let me know where you from, too. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's go. All right, so let's get to it, man. Let's do it. This is the 6 o'clock show. Let's go. Let's go.
It's hard to pinpoint exactly when I knew Not Like Us was going to be the biggest musical moment of the year. When the song released, it was nothing short of a monumental track for Kendrick Lamar and for rap music overall. But the fact that the song came out within literal days of three other diss records from Kendrick, all of which rocked the culture, ensured nothing was set in stone about the track's legacy. And even as the summer progressed and the track became the de facto face of the entire Kendrick and Drake beef, there was still that possibility that Drake or Kendrick would release something else, which would make Not Like Us into a footnote of a much larger battle. But
Yeah, that's true, too. At Before the battle happened, I did tell my friends that Drake is going to get slaughtered. He's going to get demolished. But I definitely thought that because there's only one track to me. After I went back and listened to it, Push Ups was cool. Push Ups is a cool record, but there's really only one track that stands out with Drake, and that's Family Matters. That's it. You know what I'm saying? That's the only one. But outside of that, there's really nothing else he did that actually, to me, competed. That's the only one. Well, let's keep it going.
I had to label it exactly. The moment when I knew Not Like Us was destined to be the largest, most iconic track of 2024. I mean, it would probably be around the time Kendrick hopscotched on beat while calling Drake a p***. The entire Not Like Us music video actually was so disrespectful, such a complete display of just pure hating, that it all but solidified for me that A, Kendrick won this battle, and B, we will listen to Not Like Us for years to come to remind ourselves of that. And
I don't see. I, I kind of disagree with that. I don't think it was more of disrespectful and hating. I just think that this is all fair in love and war. It wasn't disrespectful and hating. No, this is what it was. You know what I'm saying? I think that some people would look at it and take it as disrespectful and hating, but I didn't see it that way. I seen it a little deeper than just disrespectful and hating. I thought it was more of a call out than anything. You know what I'm saying?
look, I love Not Like Us. Like almost everyone in the world, I've been dancing and singing along to this song for months now. And while Apple Music tells me Like That is my most listened to song of the year, Not Like Us sits at a comfortable fourth place with ample time to rise. But fully understanding the power of Not Like Us did not inspire me to come on here and make a video exclusively about why the track is a fun or entertaining song. As possible as that might be, doing so would just be redundant to what literally everyone else on YouTube has already said, and it wouldn't be authentic to what I do on this channel. If you're not familiar, at Making Media Matter, well, I do just that. And while my most successful video series this year has been about the Drake and Kendrick beef, yes, it's more importantly been about understanding what Kendrick's disses towards Drake mean for his wider career. It's been about looking deeper into these disses, and that's what I feel is owed to Not Like Us. In prior videos, we've tackled the fascinating artistic value of both Kendrick's Euphoria and Meet the Grams, exploring how both songs work on dual levels, shout out Gemini Kendrick, and act as both disses towards Drake, and continuations of the narrative established for Kendrick Lamar himself on Mr. Morale and The Big Steppers, his most recent album at time of recording, and one of unity, growth, healing, and togetherness. In both videos, I determined that while Kendrick does tear into Drake on his diss songs, there's always a bit of mirroring between the pair included to highlight the deeper themes of Mr. Morale. Even as Kendrick.
Now, I will say that the reason why these two guys kind of mirror each other because they are the complete opposite on every aspect. So it might seem like they mirror each other, but they actually don't. It's just more on the lines of they're just complete opposites of the same. You know what I'm saying? Which would be like black or white. You know what I'm saying? A neutral color with no color and a something that absorbs all color. It's the absence of color and the absence of color. Black and white is the best way I could describe Drake and Kendrick.
Drake for being a deadbeat father, being a serial harasser of women, not being a part of the culture, and so on, there's a genuine effort in these tracks being made to draw parallels between Drake and Kendrick, whether that be in their past lives, their experiences with fame, or in their very flawed existences. And so I concluded there that both Euphoria and Meet the Grams are a type of regression for Kendrick. He's lashing out at Drake even though, deep down, he knows, as was made clear on Mr. Morale, that he and Drake are both humans, and all humans reflect one another, are worthy of forgiveness, and must be understood as products of their environments. My general thesis of this entire beef so far has been one rooted in this idea that Kendrick is dissing Drake, but also using Drake as an example of Mr. Morale's lessons in practice, where Kendrick dove deep into himself on.
That actually makes sense. I like that. That makes sense. He's using Drake as therapy for everybody else to show them, like, don't be like this guy. That's actually a great way of putting it. Shout out to you. Shout out to you. Shout out to you. You.
Morale, and said that his personal struggles and traumas were reflective of those experienced by all. Now, he's actually showing us that by outlining Drake's problems, their sources within Aubrey's own family and circumstances, and how they mirror Kendrick's. And that's a reading I still stand by for those tracks. It's a takeaway that I feel fits neatly into the ongoing story of Kendrick Lamar, and full transparency, it's one that I plan to use today as a means of understanding Not Like Us in this very video. One of the main reasons I haven't made a Kendrick video in so long is because I didn't want to start sounding redundant, just mapping a framework I've already used in other videos onto yet another Kendrick diss, this time one that's already been talked about to death on the internet. But as I've allowed Not Like Us to sit with me, as I've heard the track blasted in every car imaginable, mine included, and sung along to it at every party, something has dawned on me. A shocking realization that has put all my readings of Kendrick's prior disses in question and forced me to rethink how I want to discuss this year, perhaps decade-defining diss song, and it's this.
So I do want to say this. I know people get under this, they fall into this category of thinking that they're rehashing and saying the same thing. No. I can talk about Not Like Us. I could talk about Euphoria. I could talk about Drake. I could talk about Kendrick. And I'm always going to give a new take on it. You know what I'm saying? I don't worry about what other people think and say because people will tell you that you talk about something too much just so you can say. But that doesn't mean anything, especially in the grand scheme of things when you're talking to 10 people versus one person, because 9 other people might want you to talk about that 100 times over. They might like that. You know what I'm saying? Now, and if it's coming to you and you feel like you're beating a dead horse, that's something different. But for me, nah. I'm running with whatever I want to talk about, I'm going to talk about it. If it's 100 times Kendrick Lamar, I'm going to talk about it 100 times. That's just what it is. If I feel like it, I wake up, I feel like talking about this today. That's what I'm going to talk about. You got to be true to yourself. And I'm just going to say that.
I think Kendrick Lamar might honestly just really hate Drake. So I say that as a half joke, obviously Kendrick doesn't like Drake. But genuinely, all my theorizing so far about how Kendrick has been using Drake to get across the messages of Mr. Morale, how Kendrick might see a little bit of himself within Drake, it's kind of hard to defend when looking at Not Like Us. This is a song where Kendrick frames Drake as a creeper on children, where he doubles down hard on culture vulture accusations, and worse than all of that, seems to revel in every shot thrown at Drizzy. All of this is presented on a fun, upbeat, mustard instrumental, and the music video has only compounded the disrespect of it all, truly.
But see, again, I don't take this as disrespect. This what I think this what I think you're missing, right? I think that you're missing the whole point of it. Now you're saying that he's throwing these allegations and slander, but there's evidence of this stuff. Like we don't let's not act like we didn't see it and we're blind to the fact that Drake has been a creep for a long time, and he also does harass women. He also does says egregious things, and he also has a sneaky, nasty past. You know what I'm saying? Now, do we have him in the act of doing anything with children? Probably not. No, maybe somebody do it. We don't. But we can go off with the evidence we do have. Him on the stage with the 17-year-old saying, oh, why are you so, how old are you? Oh, I ain't trying to go to jail. Oh, why are you so thick? Why are you so, oh, I love how your titties rub against my chest. Oh, and he kisses her on the head and the lips. And I don't care if these nasty, creepy people out here saying, well, she was okay with it. No, her dad was there. So what? It doesn't matter. I don't care. There's evidence of this stuff. It's not like it's not evidence. You know what I mean? So don't say that he's just doing this just to do it. Nah, it's evidence. It's there. He might not have got convicted in the court of law, but it's there.
To suggest that Kendrick sees any reflection of himself in Drake now, any means for Drake to rehabilitate himself, that's a hard and complicated point to argue. So, is there really no deeper meaning to Kendrick's Not Like Us? Is it just hating for the sake of hatred? Well, I would say no. Quite the opposite, actually. This change to the formula has honestly allowed me to look at Kendrick's actions across 2024 in a radically different, and I might even say more interesting way. But in order for me to tell you why, I need a bit of your time. Give me this video, and I can promise you'll walk away with a new perspective on Mr. Morale, an updated idea of where Kendrick might be going with his next album, and a wholly original take on perhaps the most talked about song of the summer, Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us. Cool, let's do it. Let me take you back to 2022, a year of running up that hill, Oscar slaps, and the return of one Kendrick Lamar from his essentially 5-year hiatus after dropping Damn in 2017. On May 8th, the world was rocked by a video and accompanying song from Kendrick, the 5th installment in his The Heart series of songs. This was a nearly 6-minute Goliath of a track. The video contained Kendrick face-swapping with multiple prominent Black celebrities, rapping in top form, going deep into his personal journey, and I think it's safe to say that the track created a moment of speculation and analysis as people tried to break down the real value of this song. Yet, I don't think it was until after the release of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers that the complete genius of the track made itself clear. And bear with me here, because to explain the hard part 5, my own theory on the track, and how it relates to Not Like Us, we really have to cover all of Mr. Morale in a woefully over-summarized way. See, the hard part 5, upon initial release, was seen by many, myself included, to be a track about Kendrick's specific place prior to the start of his upcoming record. This was a song where Kendrick made reference to countless other famous figures and seemed to loosely comment on their experiences, but this was ultimately a song about Kendrick Lamar. He used the track to speak on his background growing up in Compton, his status as a rap megastar, and his fears over if the culture, something we can read as Black culture, rap culture, or just humanity overall, would accept him as a flawed product of, well, itself. Kendrick presented himself as someone rooted in the culture, a culture that so often sees hurt people hurting people, and told us honestly that he was a part of that painful cycle. It seemed as though the references to other, often complicated figures within the song were especially designed then to show us how Kendrick, like them, is a piece of an incredibly large, incredibly complicated cultural puzzle. And
yeah, that's that's definitely that's definitely one of those songs that I think that us as black people, we don't really dig deep into what he's saying on that song. And every one of those people that he put up had either a very complicated situation went on with them from any aspect, outside of Nipsey Hussle getting deleted, and I hated that. Um, but yeah, I think that what she's saying is true here, but it's much more deeper than what we think. I think that most of us look at not like us. I mean, look at the Heart Part 5 as surface level, but if you watch the video and you listen to what he's talking about, it's much more deeper.
While the song ended on a positive note, Kendrick asserting through the voice of the late Nipsey Hussle that he wants to help and love the culture and is willing to leave himself vulnerable if it allows him to break cultural cycles of pain, I think there was still uncertainty in the air, a feeling of incompleteness to this track, something that would be answered by Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. So let me again just make clear that this is a really hard album to summarize because I'm about to repeat some stuff I already said in a video I made a few months ago on Meet the Grams, not because I'm lazy, but because Mr. Morale is just so dense that finding the right words to explain it succinctly is almost impossible. And I somehow did it once already, so what's the point in trying to describe it any other way now? Morale is a difficult record, dense in its themes, messages, and the means through which it delivers those messages. The record presents itself loosely as a performative version of therapy, every song standing in for a different session, and the album's narrative progression being determined by Kendrick's own journey of self-discovery through the...
That is 100% facts. This album is a therapy album. So a lot of people hated this album because I always say this about Kendrick. He puts a mirror up in front of you. He makes you look at yourself. Through his experiences, you look at yourself. And a lot of people, they can't stand it. They hate the fact. People want to live, they want to live a fantasy. They want to live a fun time life. They want to live these what these rappers are doing and showing off. They wish they could be that. They listen to rappers who display all of these different things that they don't have for an escape. They don't want to feel like they're a part of that. And that's the thing.
Sessions. The development of Lamar here is informed by the key teachings of Eckhart Tolle, a German self-help philosopher known for his ideology of living in the moment, accepting past failures, and limiting the egoistic part of the self. Tolle's concepts on morale blend with other spiritual teachings and the experiences of Kendrick to form a philosophy that can be read roughly as follows. 1. All people live through one another, personal experiences representing universal ones, and all persons influencing others through a web of interconnectivity. 2. To be aware of this connectivity is to be enlightened and to be in touch with the true self. 3. However, experiencing pain caused by others can lead us to develop pain bodies, manifestations of our trauma that can overtake us and cause us to harm others, in turn continuing cycles of suffering. 4. To overcome these cycles, we must become aware of how they perpetuate, how the people who initially harmed us were products of greater influences, and how we reflect those same people. And 5. In doing so, we can learn to forgive others, forgive ourselves, and allow for the space to breathe and grow and stumble in our own lives. The narrative seems...
Now, and I do agree with that. Hurt people do hurt people. You know what I'm saying? I never really agreed with that saying, but as I got older, I start to realize that does happen. Now, it doesn't mean that it happens to everybody, but hurt people do hurt people. That does happen.
Morale is linear, just like the narrative on any other Kendrick record, but spiritually, the progression is far from normal. Reflecting real experiences, Kendrick bounces across the album from moments of great suffering to instances of false confidence, to pain moments of regression, to actual bits of spiritual enlightenment, including the record's core worldview every step of the way and showing the chaos of internal reflection in the process. By the album's end, Kendrick asserts a profound love for himself and for others, acknowledging that he still has problems he must work through, but reaching a place of semi-stasis for himself where he can take a step away from some of the more unhealthy aspects of his existence and grow in silence. That's what I said when I discussed Meet the Grahams, but for Not Like Us, we need to go a bit deeper into morale, specifically into the record's concepts of duality. There's that Gemini influence again. So, morale is a
Yes. So if y'all hear a loud bang, just because I believe there's a storm going on right now, and thunder is like, but I can't stop the video now, and I'm gonna keep it going. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep it going. But I remember this photo when he released this, and think about Kendrick, man. His work is like, it's such a work of art. A lot of people don't understand that the way he moves, man, he moves like a god. You know what I'm saying? And most artists don't do that. Most artists are in the spotlight. They want social media and all this stuff. Like, he don't really have that machine behind him. The art of being mysterious is definitely does work for Kendrick. And I like how he had Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, but if you listen to the album, the Mr. Morale part is on the Big Steppers, and the Big Steppers is on Mr. Morale. It's reversed.
full record. That much is obvious just from pulling it up on streaming services. But what's less obvious is that double album format holds weight for the concept of the record. Like I said, this is an album asserting that all humans reflect one another, and that even the most damaged and vile of us mirror the most enlightened. Kendrick's journey on this record is one where he proves as much, building himself up from a big stepper who dances around his trauma and problems into a Mr. Morale figure who uplifts others and himself through introspection. To show that both these figures are one and the same, that from pain can be born beauty, Kendrick makes it so every song here matches up with another one on the opposite side of the record. Father Time, where Kendrick breaks down the image of his father, pairs up with Savior, where he does the same type of deconstruction for his own savior complex. The complicated growth of Rich Spirit is matched with the slightly positive regression of Silent Hill, etc. And you might be asking, what is the point of discussing all of Mr. Morale here, its deeper themes and reflection setup, and a segment all about The Heart Part 5, a song released before Mr. Morale even dropped? Well, I bring all this up because The Heart Part 5, I believe, is secretly meant to fit within the narrative of Mr. Morale. More than that, even, it's a track meant to serve as prologue and epilogue to Mr. Morale, reflecting itself.
I agree with that. I definitely believe that the Heart Part 5 is definitely an intro to Mr. Morale. If you look at what he's talking about, all the people he's talking about, they have some type of things going on, or they had some things going on as black men in this country that either held them down, or they were wrongly accused, or whether they were accused, anything. You know what I'm saying? Anything. And I think that all of those people he put in there are have some type of things going on that people need to reflect on and look at. You know what I'm saying? Whether you agree or disagree.
So, Part 5 was released before Mr. Morale. That's something we already established, and we explored what the track means as a preview to Morale. Viewed through that lens, it's a personal track for Kendrick, one tying him to the culture and seeing his experiences as a byproduct of living within that culture. And for a while, that was that. But after Mr. Morale had been released to the world for a bit, Kendrick subtly added the Hard Part 5 onto the record, essentially as a bonus track. But the specific placement of the song on Mr. Morale captured my attention. In this concept record where song placement is so key, this track that seemingly opened the era of Mr. Morale now closed it. And whether it was intentional or not, this placement of the track got me thinking. See, while the Hard Part 5 served as an intro to Morale, it also functions beautifully as a close. Kendrick's pleading with the culture for love and statements of, "Look what I done for you," now read as the words of a man who's just exposed his soul on a record and wants to be accepted through his imperfections. Kendrick's references to being a product of the culture now feel like the knowledgeable writings of someone who sees clearly how his life was molded by those of others. And the multiple references of the track, the figures Kendrick channels, we can now read his connection to them as even more overt, taking into account the concept as seen on Mr. Morale that we all live through one another. Kendrick
That's absolutely true. And I think that that's the whole point of that song. The whole point of that song is to let people know that we're connected in some type of way, whether it's positive or negative. And a lot of these people, they posted up, they went through something, and we all was affected by it. You know what I'm saying? Whether we like it or not, we was all affected by it. And I think he wanted to show that on display, especially black men.
Through all of these figures, making it even more powerful that his final thesis here, when viewing part 5 as the finale to Morale, his final words on compassion, forgiveness, and unity come not through his own voice, but through his channeling of Nipsey Hussle's perspective. Symbolically, it shows us how Kendrick has learned across the record that he lives through others and they through him. The Heart Part 5 is a beautiful conclusion to all of Morale, yet also a perfect introduction. It is Kendrick at his most broken and scarred, yet it's also Kendrick at his most enlightened and awake. It's a song that reflects itself and shows us, in real time, how even the most damaged of people can become the most free. That understanding that is only a matter of perspective. For what it's worth, the Heart Part 5 might be my personal pick for Kendrick's all time greatest song. I've done nothing but.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that being an all-time greatest song. I don't know if that's even in my top 5 Kendrick's greatest songs. Maybe 6 or 7, but all-time greatest, nah. He has so many, man. To me, that would be or could be number 1. I have to sit down and think, but I know it's not that. But that's a good pick, though. I ain't gonna lie.
Praise the track here, but the ways in which I've described it don't really do justice to the single as a work of musical genius. They don't touch on the depth of Kendrick's references, or the meaning in his sample of Marvin Gaye's I Want You, or the myriad of ways that the Heart Part 5 ties back into songs from earlier in Kendrick's catalog. Needless to say, it's genius. And I would love to do a full video on the Heart Part 5 one day. Maybe I will. But we're here to talk about Not Like Us. Yeah, I remember when the video was like about that song. So why did I just go on this extensive rant and explanation of the deeper genius in the Heart Part 5? To answer that, we need to talk about audience reception to Part 5 and to Mr. Morale overall. The Heart Part 5 closes with a powerful statement from Kendrick. On a track where he spends so much time repeating that he wants the culture, but wants us to want him too, Kendrick ends by cutting off that second part of the phrase entirely. His final words are simply, I want you. Words that imply that Kendrick now trusts us as an audience to want and accept him back. Mr. Morale was the story of Kendrick learning to forgive himself and thus others, and now he trusts will do the same for him, learning to love Kendrick despite all his faults and missteps in the process. If that truly occurred, though, is up for debate. Mr. Morale was received in perhaps the most complicated way any Kendrick record ever has been.
Nah, I do agree with that. A lot of people looked at this record and this record to them was too deep. It was too personal. They didn't want to hear that. He did a good job by masking it, but for the most part, they didn't want to hear that. Most people listen to this record. I don't want my cousin. He listened to this record. He listened to Mother I Sober, and he texted me and said, I'm crying right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, he said, I'm crying. I can't believe I'm crying. Like, so people got to understand. For some people, it did nothing. But for a good portion of people, this record was very, very intense. It was very deep. It did something to a lot of people that a lot of people just didn't understand. And I will say, if you're not really of the culture or you didn't experience some of these things, you're not going to really understand Mr. Morale too much. You know what I'm saying? You're really not.
Kendrick's records have been dense in the past. They've usually masked that density under a good few catchy songs that keep listeners coming back to decipher them, and kept it understandable enough for casual audiences to grasp. To Pimp a Butterfly, for instance, is a very dense record going over fame, depression, systemic racism, and more, but that content exists underneath songs such as King Kunta, All Right, These Walls, tracks you'll be humming for days. And the story is ostensibly a straightforward journey of Kendrick moving through fame. It's fairly understandable after you listen to someone break it all down. Morale was...
So Good Kid, Mad City was a good kid in a mad city. He got out. He got out of the situation he was in. One of his friends get killed, and everything was. This story happened in one day, so he got out. His mom at the end of this joint said, Top Dog said, come to the studio. The next thing you know, he linking up with Dre. Now, most people when they link up with Dre, that's a big deal. That's a life changing thing. He linked up with Dre. Then after he linked up with Dre, then To Pimp a Butterfly comes. That means that he left the hood, right? He left the hood, and he eventually came back. And if you listen to the first song, they should never give you niggas money, go back home. You know what I'm saying? They was basically telling him the demons outside or everybody outside was telling him, because he said, when I get signed, I'm gonna act a fool and I'm gonna get all this stuff, all this jewelry and all this shit. Then he realized that none of that mattered. You know what I'm saying? Because when Lucy came around, Lucy was like, listen, I'm gonna give you all this stuff, just sign this. And even when with you, he was talking about himself. He drinking and he was in the studio, in the hotel and all that shit. He realized that loving himself is complicated because he's such a broken person. He's such a broken man. And then when he got sober, in his head's like, all my life I had to fight. Yeah, we gonna be all right. Then he started to go in and he went back to the hood. And then he talked to the little boy. The little boy told him whatever he told him. And then eventually he got to the concert. And in the concert, everybody was, being the same fight. And he said, nah, like, I seen the other side. We got a chance to be better than what we are. Why are you fighting? You know what I'm saying? And then he left it from there. Then he go into Damn. Damn was another thing where he kind of felt like he wasn't from this planet. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was more of I would say, spiritual journey inside of the mind of Kendrick. And then you get to Mr. Morale, and he realized that all of those things culminated all the way up to Mr. Morale. He had to seek help because he was going through all these different changes and all these different things. And finally he gets to Mr. Morale, and Whitney told him to go to therapy. He finally got help because of the fame and the fortune and the good kid in the mad city, and seeing all that, it all came to a head. And then now I believe his next album is going to be much more deeper than these albums. It's going to be, now I'm healed, I'm past all this stuff, let's see where it goes from here.
Not that at all. The catchiest tracks here don't make up for an album filled with heartbreaking and uncomfortable explorations of trauma, and the album's story, one that jumps around and is fused with the complicated teachings of a German self-help guru, definitely doesn't lend itself to casual fans. And for those reasons, morale didn't catch on as was perhaps intended. And so, the messages Kendrick was spreading here, ones meant to genuinely help others and bring people together, fell on somewhat deaf ears.
Well, I kind of agree with that, but there's a reason why. The climate of this is the reason why Kendrick is so great. And this is the reason why next year, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, you're going to go back to Mr. Morale. Because people got to understand, some things ain't just for now. I remember people were saying that about The Pimp Butterfly. They were saying the same thing. Oh, this album really ain't that good, or I don't know why he's doing this, or he's think he's a rebel, or he's this and that. People was actually complaining that he was talking about something helping us as black people and doing it in an artistic form. People were complaining about it. So I think that when it comes to this album, a lot of people don't like it because they don't like to hear about their flaws. They don't like to see their own flaws in themselves. And I think when you sit down with this album and you realize that you're going through the same thing, or you need to go seek therapy as well, because I believe that a lot of people do need to talk to somebody, whether you think you all right or not. You know what I'm saying? I think you should talk to somebody because you might have some things going on that you don't realize. You know what I'm saying? So past traumas and all that stuff. So look, this is what happened. So I think that that's the reason why it wasn't received well, because most people, they kind of like, they don't want to hear that. It's not it's not that, how would I say this? It's not that they didn't like it. They just don't want to hear it now. And it's like when your mom and your dad is trying to teach you something at the dinner table and you're trying to eat dinner. And you're like, I don't really feel like hearing this right now. But you know they're right. You know what I'm saying? You know they're right. They have to catch you at the right moment. And I think that when someone's going through something and just so happens that this one of those songs come on and it hits their ear, that's when they realize it. And that's why I think that what you're saying is correct, but it's a little bit different.
For fans that didn't have the time or energy to analyze this record track by track, to watch breakdown videos, or understand who the hell Eckhart Tolle is, the real value of Mr. Morale was kind of lost. And so Kendrick was essentially quiet for 2 years, ignoring a spare banger with cousin Baby Keem. Where is the collab album, Kendrick? And it seemed as though the goals of Mr. Morale were just going to be left in the past. A somewhat failed experiment for, honestly, the only rapper who could have pulled it off if it was even possible.
But it wasn't a failed experiment because he still won Album of the Year. I believe the album still went platinum. So it wasn't really a failed experiment. I guess you're not saying it in that way. You might be saying it in a different way, but that's just my opinion. Let's keep going.
We arrive at the Drake beef. Like I mentioned earlier, I stand on what I said, mostly, about Kendrick using songs such as Euphoria and Meet the Grams to subtly get across the messages of Mr. Morale. I like what I wrote in those videos, and I find truth in what I said there. But even then...
I love this, man. I love this. She is really putting her foot in this joint. I love this because what she's doing is she's making it very interesting. It looks like a documentary. This is amazing work. I love this, man. Shout out to her, man. I'm definitely tagging her. Y'all go follow her. But this is amazing, amazing work. And she got some really nice teeth, too.
This question of what is the point? Kendrick might be feeding those of us who dove deep into Morale by referencing its ideas, but it's not like he's actually succeeding in what that album intended to do. It's not like he's getting people to see the commonalities they share with others and come together. Right? Wrong. Kendrick has been effectively pushing the ideas of Morale. In fact, he's been getting them across now better than he ever did. And Not Like Us is the key to understanding how Kendrick pulled off the unthinkable, how he brought the culture together with more division. There's a reason that Not Like...
All right, girl, you gotta chill with those push-ups, though. She got on the same outfit Kendrick got on. You gotta chill with those push-ups, though. I like that. Let's keep it going.
Video made me so sure of the song's genius, its staying power in the cultural mindset, that I didn't mention earlier. The video fully captured my attention, not just because it amplified the disrespectful core of Not Like Us, but because there was something so powerful in that video, so telling about the track, that I think was hard to fully understand without the visual component included. That Not Like Us, and this entire beef, honestly, has brought the world together for the sole purpose of hating on Drake. The central phrase at the core of this song, "They Not Like Us," itself toes this complicated line between confrontationalism and community. Kendrick essentially using it to create an in and out group, both of which are incredibly vague in a way that I have to imagine is intentional.
I said that same thing to my friend. I said, he just made it to where there's an in group and an out group. And when you say they not like us, again, sports teams is going to use this. Boxers is going to use this. Wrestlers is going to, everybody's going to use this. Even it's going to be companies that's going to use this. Xbox might use it or PlayStation might use it. You know what I'm saying? Because it puts a parallel between two. They not like us, which means I'm better or they're not like us. Come over here. You know what I'm saying? That is complete 100% genius. That's a genius bar. You cannot get around that. 100% genius.
They in that phrase could mean anything from all of Canada to Drake in particular. And the us could be every Drake hater in existence, or specifically Kendrick's camp. That vagueness, combined with the mass success of this track, really lends itself to a reading that is as broad as possible. When you hear a diverse and massive crowd chanting, "They Not Like Us," I think it encourages an attempt at understanding what factors unite that crowd, that group of seemingly unconnected people. What factors make them not like whoever they're rallying against. While it might be subtle, Kendrick is forcing those who listen to this track to see the commonalities they share with others, to see the ways they reflect one another in a way very topical to the philosophy of Mr. Morale. You might see that as a leap, but it's really only the surface when discussing this track. One of the main reasons I dove so deep into the Heart Part 5 earlier is because I see Not Like Us as almost the evil twin of that song, where the Heart Part 5 sees Kendrick getting introspective and comparing his own experiences to those of others as a means of showing off the universality and connectivity of existence. On Not Like Us, we see Kendrick getting very external and confrontational to deliver the same lessons. Now, he's not just referencing others, he's actively collaborating with them, shouting out Mustard in the song's first lines in a way that ensures he'll be just as iconic of a figure in this moment as Kendrick himself. Now,
I don't know if I agree with that. It's evil twin. I don't agree with that. I don't even know if I compare these two songs together. Uh, I do say that they're more opposite of, because one is about uh wanting you and wanting you to understand him, and this one is like they not like us. I don't see them as complete opposite. Maybe she's gonna explain, but for me, I just don't see that.
Kendrick is not just reflecting on his own journey in Compton, he's creating an anthem to celebrate his city, rooted in the dances and musical styles of it. And now Kendrick isn't alone in some dull room rapping to himself. He's singing his song with a sea of fans who echo his every word. Kendrick is pushing aside the heady rapping about how people mirror one another in favor of showing, in about the clearest way possible, people coming together in service of a common goal, celebrating their similarities and understanding one another. I think it's no mistake that Kendrick's pop out concert from this summer, a concert that ended with the repeat performances of Not Like Us, closed not with some final statement piece on Drake, but with a group photo, bringing together people from all over for the purpose of hating. Featured within Not Like Us.
See, I disagree with that. I don't think that he brought together people for the purpose of hating. I totally disagree with that. I think he sees the opportunity to bring these people together. It just so happens that Drake, he was beefing with Drake, but this whole concert wasn't about Drake. It wasn't about beefing with Drake because everybody performed. They had nothing to do with Drake. He did his thing. That was it. But it wasn't for the sole purpose of hating. You know what I'm saying? No, this was more for sole purpose of bringing people together out of love. That's what I believe. I don't think that it was. I don't understand where you got that theory from. I totally disagree with that.
Plenty of bars that speak to a common human experience. When Kendrick references Tizo Touchdown or John Stockton, when he puts on for the entire cities of Atlanta, shout out Atlanta, and Compton, he's connecting all people together. He's weaving this web of reflection to which Drake is an aggressor, as someone who seems solely to ignore that reality, to move in a way that hurts others. But so much of the value in Not Like Us comes not in its song structure, beat, or lyrics. It comes in its influence. Where the Heart Part 5 was the smart, effective articulation of Kendrick's ideas, this track is a very rough, dirty expression of them. Yet where Part 5 couldn't change the culture, Not Like Us has. The track, in a manner very similar to Part 5, straddles this line between the individual and the universal. Like I said, the in and out groups Kendrick establishes on this song are incredibly malleable. And while I might have initially heard this song on release as Kendrick's most selfish, bitter, and personal diss towards Drake, it's hard not to hear it now as this real anthem for everyone. I can respect its value as.
Well, again, I disagree. It definitely is an anthem for everyone because in the title they are like us, right? So basically, it is not for everyone, but it is for everyone that's on his side. So he is basically cutting out who's not like them. Now, if he has, let's be clear here, he's actually talking about Drake in his camp, right? But let's just say, for argument's sake, if he had everybody on his camp and there was only two people on that side, he could say they not like us. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. So, I mean, you're halfway right about that.
Incredibly Compton and incredibly Kendrick Lamar, But when I sing along to this track, I don't feel like I'm cosplaying as Kendrick. When I hear this song, that us can be whoever, and that they doesn't even need to be Drake. It might be someone I'm just pissed off at or some random person who annoyed me that day. Regardless, whatever hate I have in my heart is getting expelled when this track comes on. And at the same time, I'm thinking about my similarities with the people around me who, for whatever reason, are nothing like the people I have beef with.
But that doesn't mean that's hate though. I think you're using the wrong word in my opinion. It's not it's not hate because you tell somebody you're not like me. That doesn't mean you hate them. You know what I'm saying? You could basically be saying that to a man and you're a woman. You're not like us. Does that mean women hate men? No. You know what I'm saying? Vice versa, a man could say they not like us. Does that mean, you know what I'm saying? I understand you're saying the sentiment behind it is saying that, but at the same time, like, just because somebody say they not like us doesn't mean that that's a call for hate. It's not. You know what I'm saying? He's just calling it like it is. He could be talking about a bunch of dogs, a bunch of fucking cats. They not like us. Doesn't mean that they're not like us because I hate them, because he had a squabble with somebody and that's what it's for. But no, he was pointing at Drake in his camp and that's what that was. But it's not. I don't think that this has anything to do with hate.
Kendrick has now done the Heart Part 5 thing, in a way so much clearer to everyone than Part 5 ever was. Not Like Us is personal and universal. It is coming from a place of regression and anger, yet showing how that anger and aggression can give birth to togetherness. There's a reason I've mentioned Drake himself so little in this video, where I've discussed a diss song directed to him. And that's because Drake truly isn't the focus of this track. Not really. He's a tool for Kendrick to use and a villain around which everyone can unite. A means of getting across Kendrick's ideas on Mr. Morale to an audience of fans who otherwise would write him off as too difficult to understand.
Okay, I don't agree with that either. I definitely think that this song is geared towards Drake. I don't think that this song is geared towards bringing people together of understanding of something else. No, I definitely believe that this song is geared towards Drake. You know what I'm saying? Now, people can rally around it, and I think that overall the pop out concert was used to bring people together. But this song here is geared towards Drake and his people. That's just that. I don't think that I'm not looking at it from a deeper lens, because I definitely believe that that's what that is.
And I guess if I'm going to preach this idea that Kendrick's Not Like Us is a new version of the Heart Part 5, then there's one more very important question to ask. Album. What does it mean for the album? If my theory here holds true merit and Not Like Us really is the evil twin to Part 5, then I guess it should be the prelude to an album on the way. I mean, the brief snippet at the start of the Not Like Us music video definitely implies that. So, can Not Like Us tell us anything about Kendrick's next album in a way Part 5 told us so much about Mr. Morale? Well, this is just speculation, but I expect the next record to be a re exploration of Mr. Morale's themes, just with much more focus on making the message simpler. It will likely be a very family centered record, one that could even throw some more shots at Drake and maybe other rappers, but only in service of Kendrick bringing others together. I think the story and journey of Morale definitely won't be ignored, but I don't see this coming album as another Morale, where Kendrick unpacks the regressive parts of himself that cause him to lash out at others, such as Drake. Instead, I assume we'll get passing mentions of Kendrick's very active and complicated journey of healing, paired with Kendrick pushing his morale philosophy a bit to the side so he can make room for embracing things that generally uplift his spirit and serve him well. The opening lines from Kendrick's previewed snippet on the Not Like Us music video might help confirm that, with Kendrick rapping, quote, "Alright, Kendrick impression incoming. I am reincarnated. I will start gazing. Life goes on. I need all my babies."
That was cute. That was cute. I need all my babies. Oh man, that was cute. All right, let's go.
That reincarnation likely refers to the new enlightenment Kendrick found at the end of Morale. That stargazing is likely the process of introspection Kendrick went through to get there, and the final two bars seem to suggest that it's now time for Kendrick to embrace what's real in his life, to put those lessons into practice. And while he might stumble from the Mr. Morale path occasionally, it's a good heart that now leads him. Again, that's just a theory, a game theory. I think regardless of where Kendrick goes from here, whether it's something I've predicted or something radically different, his next album will have to be influenced by and in conversation with Not Like Us. Kendrick seems to have now achieved what he set out to do on Mr. Morale, albeit in a way that I doubt Kendrick himself would have even predicted 2 years ago. Kendrick has the attention of the culture, but what he chooses to do with that attention will be his decision.
Now, we'll say this. Kendrick always had the attention of the culture. It's just he doesn't drop music all the time. But whenever he drops something, he takes over. People know to stay out the way. From other genres, people stay out the way when he drops. You know what I'm saying? So I do believe that he definitely has the attention of the culture. Kendrick is the culture. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep it going.
2022 was not a year of unity. At least not in the way I think Kendrick Lamar might have hoped it would be. Mr. Morale did not radically transform the world and cause people en masse to recognize their flaws and change their behavior, to see their parallels within others and grow as people. And I think
Now, I will say this. That wasn't Mr. Morale's intention was to change the world. Even though I believe he does pull up a mirror and want you to see your reflection. But I don't think that Kendrick Lamar makes music to change the world or anything. I think Kendrick Lamar makes music for Kendrick Lamar, and you like him, you like it, you like it. I don't really think he has everybody in mind when he does it. He's just an artist that puts out material and he goes from there. He don't have social media. He doesn't promote a bunch of different things and saying a bunch of different things. Maybe when his album comes out, he might drop a little Instagram picture here and there, but he's not really trying to get people to like him. You know what I'm saying? He's not doing that.
that's a tragedy. I know Mr. Morale helped me personally to just make it through 2022, and it caused me to completely change how I looked at the world and my own life. It was a hard record to understand, but once I did, what the record gave me was powerful. But my story was a rare one, and Mr. Morale did not make the cultural splash it probably should have. And so 2022 was not a year of unity. 2024,
But another thing too, I think people gotta stop worrying about other people liking something. You get what I'm saying? Like, I understand exactly what she's saying, but at the same time, it's like Kendrick is not worried about that. His music stands the test of time. He's not worried about making a cultural splash. He's not. I think people get caught up in the what they call that the they get caught up in getting people to want to like something. It's like, okay, do you like it? Do I like it? But it's like you got to get validation from everybody or most people, because if most people don't say they like it, then you don't even have to hear it to say it's not good, because you're looking at it from everybody else validation. That's lazy listeners. Not to say she is. I definitely don't think she's a lazy listener. She is much more in tune than most people. But lazy listeners don't listen to music. They only go off of everybody else and what they said. And it's like, oh, my boy didn't like it. Yeah. So he's validated because your boy listens to music. And since your boy don't like it, you will go and say it's corny or it's trash. Or you don't have time. Oh, it's too deep, bro. I don't got a time for that. Did you hear it? No, I ain't hear it. My boy told me it was deep as hell, though. I ain't listening to that. Yeah, that's what most people do now. They need that validation.
so in some ways, has been. And much of that has come from the work of Kendrick Lamar. Somewhere in history, someone once said, hate is a hell of a motivator. And if 2024 has taught me anything, it's the truth of that phrase. Because 2 years ago, Kendrick Lamar set out to bring the world together. And the way he achieved that wasn't through bearing his soul, it wasn't through releasing a monumental and critically acclaimed double album, and it wasn't through spreading his message plainly. It was through really, really making us hate one guy. Oh, and for those of you still saying that Kendrick like didn't bring the world together to hate on Drake, I'm sorry your summer has been so boring.
Yeah, I like that, but I disagree. I don't think that he brought the whole world together to hate on Drake. I just don't. I just think that he brought the world together to look at Drake. Yeah, I'm saying not to hate on him because he has a lot of people who still love him. I would say that. I don't know. Maybe I just don't like the word hate. That's a pretty strong word. Phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal video. Excellent. That was excellent. I really, 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 really appreciated that video. I like that. She had a lot of great points, and that was great, man. That was great. I'm so happy I found that video. I will say, you guys, um, you guys are great, man. And I didn't get to say this because you guys stick with me through this stuff. I really appreciate y'all, man. I really do. I can't thank y'all enough. I love doing this. I love it. I love it. I absolutely love it. I brought all my equipment with me. All my equipment, you know what I mean? Just so I can do this because I can't stay away from you guys. I love it. Shout out to her, you know what I'm saying, for putting together that phenomenal video. Although I didn't agree with everything she said, I agreed with a good portion of it. And she is a person that we need to follow. Trust me. So, like I said, man, you guys have a great night, man. I'll see you guys later. Take care. Peace. Bye.